Today we're talking about pickups. You don't have to be a full-on science nerd to understand how pickups work. The first electric guitar pickup made in 1931. The first chocolate chip cookie made in 1938. If they could figure this out, it can't really be that complicated. Pickups are a huge part of a guitar sound, and you should know about them because having the right pickups is gonna really help you get the guitar sound that you're looking for. Today I'm gonna teach you how electric guitar pickups work, the three main types you need to know, components of pickups, how they affect the sound, pickup brands that have to be on your radar so you don't look like a fool. Let's get started. What are guitar pickups? The easiest way to think of a guitar pickup is like little microphones for your guitar. Essentially, a guitar pickup is a magnet that senses a string's vibration and converts it into an electrical signal that can be amplified. There are three main types of pickups that you will run across, which are single coil pickups, humbuckers, and P90s, which are types of single coils. Single coil is insulated wire wrapped around 6 individual magnets or slugs. Clean, bright, snappy. They're associated most famously with the Fender Stratocaster guitar, Telecaster guitar. Single coils inherently have some background buzz, and that's amplified when you're playing with any gain or distortion. That noise that we talked about with the single coils, that inspired building our next type of pickup, the humbucker. We're bucking the hum. The humbucker is using 2 single coils wound in different directions, and that cancels out that background noise. Now, humbuckers sound thicker, fuller, heavier. Typically, they have higher output. You hear humbuckers in hard rock music, classic rock, the heavy stuff. They're not as snappy, not as clean. You see humbuckers on Gibson Les Pauls, Paul Reed Smith guitars, Jackson Ibanez, all the metal guitars, the pointy stuff. Hell, this guitar happens to have some humbuckers on it. A very important pickup, and I myself am definitely a humbucker guy. The P90 pickup. So a P90 is a single coil, but it sounds somewhere between a single coil and a humbucker. It definitely has some bite to it. It's a little grittier. It's not as nice and polite as Buddy Holly wearing a sport coat. This is more Billy Joe Armstrong losing his temper and screaming at Usher at the iHeart Music Festival. Typically warmer than a regular single coil, thicker, but not so much as a humbucker. They face the same noise issues as a regular single coil, but kind of adds to its vintage charm. Something worth looking into and definitely worth being aware of. Parts of a pickup. We have the bobbin, which is typically black plastic. That is what holds our magnet or slug, as they're sometimes called, in place. Next is the wire. We have hundreds of feet of conductive wire wrapped around this coil. Wire can be made of a lot of different materials. A lot of times it's enamel wire, it can be polyurethane, it can be nylon. Each one of these things sounds different, and also the amount of wraps, the tightness of the wraps, all these things can affect the sound of a pickup. So there really is an art and a science to pickup making. Magnets can also be made out of different material too. The most popular that you'll find for guitar pickups is something called alnico. Alnico is an alloy made up of aluminum, nickel, and cobalt. Alnicos have a numeric rating to them. This is something that's really important for you guys to be aware of because you can kind of tell the characteristics of a pickup just by its alnico number. So when you see alnico 2, that's kind of like woody and vintagey. You can think about like Slash's tone. He always uses alnico 2 pickups. Alnico 3, these are the weakest of the alnico pickups because they actually don't include any cobalt. You don't see alnico 3 pickups very often. Alnico 5, these are heavier sounding pickups, a little hotter, like hard rock pickups. Then you'll see alnico 8, these are really hot pickups. They still have like some of the woody, natural guitar sound, but they're more for heavy metal playing. And then something you don't see as often, but are actually my favorite types of pickups, are alnico 4 pickups. These are what Jimmy Page used in like classic Led Zeppelin recordings, kind of late 60s, Les Paul sounds. Then you can also have pickups made out of a ceramic magnet, and those have the highest output typically and are really hot. The winding of the wire actually does make a difference. If the wire is wound too few times, your pickup will sound too like bright and brittle. If it is overwound or wound too much, it can sound muddy and not defined. You may have heard the term wax potting. That is when pickups are dipped into hot wax. And what that does is it closes any gaps within the windings and it protects against feedback. So like if you're somebody that plays hard rock or metal, or you play with just a lot of distortion all the time, you typically would want pickups that are wax potted. The downside to this is they may be a little less touch sensitive or dynamically responsive. So if you're like a real vintage player, or you have like a fully hollow guitar and you really want all that live resonance, wax potting your pickups may not be for you. It's just an option, you don't have to do it. Besides wax potting, you can also lacquer pot pickups. Pick your poison, or hey, no potting at all. Go fully nude if you choose. Coil splitting and coil tapping. People use these phrases interchangeably, but they actually do mean something different. A coil split is when you're using a humbucker and you have something on your guitar, be it like a freeway switch here or a push-pull pot on your volume, something that turns off one of the coils in a humbucker, essentially making it a single coil. That usually lowers the output, that'll make it a little bit brighter. You know, it'll take it from a humbucker sound close to a single coil sound. A coil tap is when you have some hardware that just uses less output. It just turns off some of the output, so you're tapping into half of the power there. May end up sounding similar, but it's not doing exactly the same thing. Also worth noting, we have passive and active pickups. When you think of regular guitar pickups, those are passive. They don't need to be powered, they don't need a battery, they're just magnetic. But modern times call for modern solutions. You may be familiar with companies like EMG, Fishman, the Fluence pickups. Those are some really great sounding active pickups that need to be either charged with a USB, you know, just like my humongous vape, or with a 9-volt plugged into it. And those can be really clear and really heavy and really aggressive. And there's just a lot more output to these active pickups that a passive pickup cannot give you. Probably the most famous pickup brand would be Seymour Duncan. Their website has a really great pickup finder thing where you can tell them what kind of music you like and what kind of guitar you have. DiMarzio is another really famous classic pickup company. All the like shred guitar heavyweights, Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen, Joe Satriani, all those guys use DiMarzio pickups, Paul Gilbert. Some newcomers who make really great sounding pickups, Bare Knuckle pickups, Fishman pickups. I use Gemini pickups, they're great. Righteous Sound, Mojo pickups, Brandon Wound pickups, Lambertones. So we learned a lot about pickups today. What they are, what they do, what they're made of, and how the components of a pickup change what they sound like. The important thing that I want you to take away from today's video is really the sonic differences between these types of pickups. Anything that you can use to educate and arm yourself with information is gonna help you get closer to building that dream guitar and creating your own sound. And that is really important. If you're really interested in diving deep in this, I've attached a glossary of some even more terms that you may come across so you'll sound even better, smarter. You can find me on Discord. If you really want to learn something, go to Patreon. That's the best. You are now an electrical genius. I am so proud of you.